Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever wondered how some founders manage to start businesses, lock down their personal assets, and keep their startup costs incredibly low, while the rest of us are out here paying an absolute fortune? Well, today we are unpacking a complete step-by-step guide to launching a fully compliant New Mexico LLC. We're going to explore every actionable step from our source material so you can get your business up and running with total confidence. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, you might be asking, why form an LLC in New Mexico specifically? I mean, if you've ever looked into starting a business in other states, you already know it can be a complete bureaucratic nightmare. It's expensive, and worse, your personal info is just blasted all over public records for anyone to see. But New Mexico? It offers this really surprising mix of absolute anonymity and unmatched affordability. So the crucial point is zero. Yep, $0. That is exactly how much New Mexico charges you for annual reporting fees or franchise taxes. While other states will literally drain your wallet with these reoccurring fees every single year, maintaining your New Mexico LLC costs absolutely nothing in state maintenance fees. No way, right? But it's totally true. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the New Mexico advantage. Then, choosing a name and a registered agent. Third, filing your articles and drafting your operating agreement. Fourth, snagging your EIN and handling state taxes. And finally, maintaining your LLC compliance. Okay, let's dive into this first part, the New Mexico advantage. Just look at the stark contrast in costs we've got here. To set up in New Mexico, you're looking at a one-time $50 state fee, $0 annually, and get this, absolute anonymity. That means your name as the owner stays totally off public records. Now compare that to California's brutal $800 minimum annual tax, or even Delaware, which hits you with $200 to $300 in annual fees. For a completely private, set-it-and-forget-it business structure that still hands you the personal liability protection of an LLC, New Mexico is the clear winner. Moving right along to Section 2, Name and Registered Agent. First things first, you need a name, and New Mexico really just has two main rules for this. One, your name must be distinguishable from any other entity already registered in the state, and two, it's got to include a proper designator at the end, something like LLC, LLC, or Limited Company. To make absolutely sure your dream name isn't already taken, you can run a free search on the Secretary of State's portal at enterprise.sos.nm.gov. Seriously, do this first so your application doesn't get rejected and slow you down. Once you have a name picked out, you have to appoint what's called a registered agent. This is simply a mandatory contact person for your company. Now, they must have a physical street address in New Mexico. P.O. boxes are strictly prohibited here. They also have to be available during normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., to accept hand-delivered legal notices, lawsuits, and tax documents. Now, you could be your own agent to save a few bucks, but remember, your address will then become public record. Plus, if you step out to grab a coffee and miss a lawsuit delivery, you could face a default judgment against your business. That is a massive risk. It's exactly why so many founders choose to pay a professional service, usually around $100 a year, to handle this whole shebang and keep their own addresses perfectly private. All right, Section 3, Articles and Operating Agreement. To officially bring your LLC to life, you've got to file your Articles of Organization. Here's how it works. Step 1, gather your info, your LLC name, your registered agent's details, and your management structure. Step 2, file this directly online at the Secretary of State's business portal. Oh, and a quick heads up, paper filings are no longer accepted, so it's all digital now. Step 3, pay the one-time $50 filing fee. This goes straight to the state and is completely unavoidable. And Step 4, you just wait 1 to 3 business days for approval. Once they give the green light, the state issues your official Certificate of Organization. And this brilliantly illustrates a really important distinction, the difference between your two main founding documents. The Articles of Organization, those are mandatory. You file them with the state, pay your $50, and they legally create your LLC. But your operating agreement, that's your internal rulebook. It costs exactly $0 to draft it yourself. Now, while New Mexico doesn't legally require you to have one, you absolutely need it. It outlines exactly who owns what and how profits are split. Without it, the state's default laws basically take over your business, and trust me, those might not fit your specific situation at all. Let's keep the momentum going with Section 4, EIN and state taxes. Next up on the checklist, you need an Employer Identification Number, or EIN. You can think of this basically as a social security number for your business. You're going to need it to open a business bank account or if you ever plan to hire employees. Now, here is a massive pro tip for you. Never, ever pay a formation service to get this for you. It's literally like paying someone to breathe for you. You can apply directly on the IRS website for free in about 10 minutes. It is super easy. Now, just because the Secretary of State knows you exist doesn't actually mean you are registered for taxes. You still need to register, again, totally for free, through the Taxation and Revenue Department's Taxpayer Access Point, or TAP. Basically, if you are selling goods or providing services, you have to get a business tax ID right here on this site. So when it comes to state taxes, New Mexico is actually a bit unique. They don't have a traditional sales tax. Instead, they use what's called a gross receipts tax, or GRT. Here's the difference. While a sales tax is technically paid by the buyer, the GRT is levied directly on your LLC just for the privilege of doing business in the state. And yes, that applies even if your business only provides services. That's a super crucial distinction to keep in mind. Also, while New Mexico doesn't require a statewide general business license, you really need to check with your local city or county. Depending on exactly where you operate, a local business license or zoning permit might cost you an additional $50 to $200. Let's move to and see how this builds into our final section, maintaining your LLC compliance. You'll be happy to hear that maintaining your New Mexico LLC is wonderfully simple. First, just make sure you keep your registered agent active and paid up every single year so you never miss an important legal notice. Second, ensure you're filing your gross receipts tax and your federal pass-through income taxes on time. And finally, celebrate, because you get to enjoy absolutely no annual report filings. Unlike founders in almost every other state, you never have to file an annual report or pay a renewal fee to the New Mexico Secretary of State. How great is that? Now, before we completely wrap things up today, I definitely need to note that while this explainer provides comprehensive guidance based on our source materials, it does not constitute legal advice. Every single business situation is completely unique, right? So you should always consult with a qualified legal professional or a CPA to get personalized advice tailored exactly to your specific needs. All right, you now have the blueprint, the exact costs, and the strategy. With absolute anonymity, zero annual fees, and a startup cost of just $50, the barrier to entry has basically vanished. So the only question left for you is, with the thousands of dollars and the countless hours you're saving by setting up your LLC in New Mexico, what kind of incredible business are you going to build with it? Thanks so much for exploring this guide with me today.